This is an Anarchy server, and I am its king. But how did we get here? For that, we have to start at the beginning. The Commune Anarchy is a 2-year-old Anarchy server with a rich, deep history. The server has witnessed several massive wars, the construction of many huge builds, and the rise and fall of empires. But the Commune has only one king. Me. September 2019. An ancient era when the server was in its nescience. Several players were making their mark on the server at this time, the most prominent of whom was named Derek. Derek was well known because he would go against the standard Anarchy policy of not helping newer players. Instead, whenever someone new would join the server, Derek gave them gear for free. This wasn't out of the good of his heart. Rather, Derek had realized that by giving some gear for free, he made these players more likely to side with him in conflicts. Over time, this allowed Derek to accumulate an army of new fags, indebted to him, willing to do whatever he wanted in order to curry more favor with him. Soon, Derek's army, known as a SpawnProd, started to cause conflict on the server. The old fags, led by me, did not like the way Derek used these new fags to accomplish his own goals. Our belief was that if a new fag was strong enough, they could prove themselves to be worthy of being a notable player on the server, rather than begging for items and currying favor of those already established. A conflict soon developed as the old fags began blockading the spawn region, preventing new fags from escaping and denying them Derek's aid. In response, Derek moved SpawnProd to several bases close to spawn, so that they could quickly move supplies and forces to and from spawn in order to deny the old fags control of the key spawn region. However, by moving his bases closer to spawn, he allowed the old fags to find them more easily and allowed them to launch strikes against them, neutralizing them. My own alliance, named the Assassins, helped to blockade spawn itself and prevented new fags from escaping and potentially joining SpawnProd, while I also deployed mercenaries on search and destroy missions to locate and eliminate Derek's spawn bases. Quite soon, we were succeeding. Derek's SpawnProd army stagnated, and Derek realized the problems with using inexperienced new fags for combat. Firstly, since most of them were 10, they had terrible skills and even more terrible morale. The blockade of spawn alone was enough to keep SpawnProd at bay, but the mercenary-led strikes were simply too much, and SpawnProd's numbers began to flounder. The majority of the old fags stopped paying attention to the conflict at spawn since they believed it was practically over. Oh boy, were they wrong. The server's admin and owner, Anonymous, was frustrated by the recent events. By blockading spawn and preventing new fags from escaping into the rest of the world, we made most of them quit, and this was hurting the server itself. So, Anonymous started searching for a plugin in order to nerf spawn killing, to give new fags a better chance of escaping spawn. Derek himself offered to code the plugin, and Anonymous naively let him. As November of 2019 rolled around, mayhem ensued. Derek had become the first person in the history of the Commune to backdoor the server, and although his backdoor access was quickly removed, he had enough time to duplicate gear and place dozens of copies of stashes and bases around spawn using structure blocks. With the new, duped bases and an almost endless supply of gear, SpawnProd launched a devastating counteroffensive that broke the spawn blockade and forced the assassins onto the defensive as we endured attack after attack. Every time we killed everyone in one wave, the next wave emerged. While we needed to repair our armor and ensure that we didn't lose any, as well as send members off to grind out new sets of gear, Derek's SpawnProd could simply re-gear in their stashes and return to battle every time we massacred them. Many times we were able to destroy the garrisons they left at spawn, but were forced back by wave after wave of SpawnProd counterattacks. Every time we killed one, several more would appear. Although their skills were terrible and the members of the Assassins were extremely skilled, we simply could not hold spawn and were repeatedly forced back. By late November of 2019, we were practically defeated. Derek's SpawnProd had launched an attack on one of our own spawn bases. We'd established it with the intention of only keeping a bit of armor there as a backup, but as the war grew fierce, we'd begun to rely more heavily on the spawn base for materials, and its grief was a large blow. At this point, even SpawnProd was celebrating. They knew that they'd just become the first faction to ever successfully defeat the established old fags and veterans on any Anarchy server ever. Or had they? Enter into the picture, Scalus. Scalus was a new fag who'd recently joined the server and took part in some skirmishing near spawn on the side of the SpawnProd. In a practice duel, Scalus was able to easily defeat Derek, which led to his promotion. Scalus demonstrated his skills time and time again against the assassins, and soon he became Derek's right-hand man. Then, one fine day, Scalus panickingly messaged Derek asking for assistance. He'd stumbled into an ambush set by the assassins, and he needed a base to run to. Now, before we continue, it is important to explain something about the SpawnProd strategy. You see, when Derek duplicated his stashes dozens of times, he only gave the locations of a couple of them to his faction. That way, once those were griefed, he could fall back to another set of bases, and then another set, and another set. Additionally, this gave them a layer of security from sabotage and espionage, because if we bought over a few new fags, they would only be able to reveal one or two of the dozens of stashes that Derek had, minimizing the damage that any alternate account or trader could do. But Derek trusted Scalus, and so, not wanting his primary lieutenant to be killed and sent back to spawn, where he might be spawn killed and forced to quit, he handed over to him the locations of all his stashes so that Scalus could escape to the stash closest to him, re-gear, and fight back. Big mistake. You see, Scalus was secretly me. I had joined the server on an alt account, and using that alt, I was able to socially engineer Derek into giving me the locations of all of his bases. And now, the assassin struck. While my teammates destroyed each and every one of Derek's stashes, I called a team meeting as Scalus, who SpawnProd still believed was Derek's main lieutenant. Then, in the middle of this meeting, Scalus logged off, and I logged on. The First Great War and the battle for Spawn were both over. SpawnProd was ruined. The majority of the new fags that had joined Derek's team either quit SpawnProd and ventured off on their own, or quit the server entirely and went back to being cringy 9-year-olds again. But Derek himself wasn't giving up. Although he'd lost his army and his gear, he still had a few sets of unbreakable god armor remaining. Angry at Scalus' betrayal and my espionage, he challenged me to a duel. Well aware that I was better than him in the normal hacked crystal PvP of Anarchy servers, after all I was the most skilled fighter on the entire server, he decided to make the duel a vanilla Minecraft duel, so that it would be a true fight of skill, as if normal PvP wasn't. Of course, Derek cheated using an illegally enchanted 32k sharpness weapon that could instantly kill me with one hit. After his disastrous performance in the duel, Derek was defeated. Anonymous patched the 32ks, and it seemed that everything had ended. I sent my friend Muhud to socially engineer Derek again and led him to give up his last few sets of god armor. Finally, we agreed to a peace treaty. Derek could do as he liked as long as he did not interfere with the persecution of new fags, and he agreed that the new king of the Commune was none other than myself. And that is how I became the king of the best Anarchy server in Minecraft. The other old fags acknowledged my sovereignty over the server, but my reign was anything but peaceful. Derek kept playing in a small capacity before fully quitting the server by January, along with several others in a grand exodus sparked by a player named C64, whose exploits will be the subject of the next video. As you can tell, the Commune has had a very rich history, and I plan to cover all of the important aspects in a series of 4 videos. This was the first one, and the next one will discuss the events surrounding the player C64 and the near death of the server. The video after that will focus on the player named Kaisa, who is the only player aside from me and Derek to ever be considered a king of the server. And the potential final video on the commune will document the greatest war that the server ever witnessed. Additionally, I'd like to give a sincere thanks to the 2 most epic players on the server, Yonderbean and Shokled, without whom this video would have been impossible to make. And if you enjoyed this video on the first 3 months of the server, make sure you subscribe so you won't miss out on the new videos whenever they come out. Long live the Imperium. See ya.